Okay, let's unpack this. For anyone looking to get ahead of the curve on new tech, especially with, well, the sheer volume of information out there, this deep dive is for you. It's incredibly easy to feel swamped trying to keep up with every new device, but that's precisely why we're here. Today, we're cutting through that noise to take an in-depth look at an upcoming smartphone, the Vivo Y88. Our source material for this exploration comes from a detailed spec sheet and some early pricing information, giving us a pretty comprehensive picture even before its official launch. Our mission here is to pull out the most important insights, clarify its key specifications, and help you truly understand what stands out about this device. Especially because, as we'll see, initial information can sometimes vary, wildly actually. We're here to give you that shortcut to being truly well informed about the Vivo Y88. So let's jump right in with the initial overview and launch context. Our sources pinpoint the Vivo Y88 as an upcoming device from Vivo, expected to launch in India very soon, with an initial anticipated price around 40,000 rupees. It also notes that prices might vary due to different variants, which honestly is pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, that's typical. And what's fascinating here is how fluid the term upcoming really is in the tech world. It usually signals pre-release buzz where details are still shifting. Connecting this to the broader landscape, the main spec sheet lists released Android 14 for the operating system, which is great. But then a separate highlight section explicitly states a release date of February 2024. This begs the question, are we looking at a device that was conceptually ready for Android 14 and maybe a February launch that got pushed back? Or are these two pieces of info from slightly different stages, maybe even different sources entirely? It's a classic example of the sort of dynamic nature of pre-launch specs.
Right, that timeline confusion really shows how fluid this pre-release tech world can be. It's like trying to get a clear picture of a moving target sometimes. But let's shift gears to something more tangible, what you'll actually see and touch. The display and design. The main specifications detail a 6.67-inch IPS LCD capacitive touchscreen. Resolution is 1220 by 27 6 and 12 pixels. For design, you'll find a convenient side-mounted fingerprint sensor alongside other essential integrated sensors like an accelerometer, proximity sensor, and compass. It supports standard dual SIM capabilities, and it's expected to be available in some sleek colors, satin purple and mystic black.
And a key observation here is that while you just outlined those main display specs, well, the Vivo Y88 highlight section, which is supposed to, draw attention to key features, lists a slightly different display. It says 6.64 inches with 1080 by 2388 pixels. Now, this disparity in both resolution and size, even if it seems minor, is actually quite significant for the user experience. It could imply different regional variants, or perhaps one source reflects an earlier prototype, or maybe a more standard resolution, while the other captures the more precise, perhaps final specifications. For you, the listener, this difference could impact everything from how sharp images appear to the actual screen real estate you get. So the key takeaway here is always to cross-reference multiple trusted sources as official announcements emerge. Don't commit based on just one set of specs.
Absolutely. Those small differences can definitely add up. It's like trying to figure out if you're getting the regular size or the plus size of something without a clear label. Now, let's dive under the hood to the engine of the phone, the chipset, RAM, and storage, because this is where the real power lives. The main spec list points to a Qualcomm SM8475 Snapdragon 8 plus Gen 1. That's a 4-nanometer chip running on Android 14.
Yeah, and connecting this to the broader landscape, the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset is a genuine powerhouse. It really is. This signifies a device built for flagship-level performance. This particular chip is renowned for its high processing capabilities and, importantly, improved efficiency compared to its predecessors. What that means for you is the ability to handle demanding apps, intensive mobile gaming, and seamless multitasking with remarkable ease, all while being relatively power efficient. It's essentially the kind of engine you'd expect in a top-tier smartphone.
Okay, powerful chip. And when it comes to memory and storage, the main spec list details a robust 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of internal storage. That's a lot of room and power for most users, no doubt.
Right, but this begs the question, because here we uncover another substantial discrepancy. It's quite a big one, actually. The Vivo Y88 highlights section mentions significantly different memory configurations. 4 or 6 GB RAM and 128 GB ROM, which, means internal storage here. This isn't a subtle difference. It's a massive shift in performance tiers, like night and day almost. Why might these differences exist? Well, it's highly probable that we're seeing information for multiple variants. Maybe a more budget-friendly base model alongside a premium one. Or these could be details from different stages of pre-release info gathering. For a potential buyer, this disparity fundamentally determines whether they're getting a mid-range performer or a true high-end device. It completely alters the value proposition. Your best bet here is definitely to wait for the official product reveal and pay close attention to the specific variant names and their corresponding specs.
That's definitely something to keep a very close eye on. Yeah, it's like finding out the car you're interested in could come with either a four-cylinder or a V8 engine. Big difference. Let's talk about the cameras, which are always a huge selling point for any smartphone, right? The main camera setup features a triple lens system with a primary 108 MP sensor. That's f1.8 wide, 11.67, 0.64 millimeters, and it has PDAF. And for anyone wondering, PDAF stands for Phase Detection Autofocus. Basically helps the camera focus incredibly quickly, preventing blurry shots. Now, this main camera's video capability is listed at 1080p at 30 frames per second.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination.
Yeah.
A very high-resolution main sensor paired with, well, incredibly low-resolution 0.08 MP auxiliary lenses. Typically, auxiliary lenses at such a low resolution might contribute minimally, maybe to depth sensing or some minor details, but the heavy lifting clearly will be done by that 108 MP main sensor. It's almost like having a champion sprinter and two toddlers running alongside them. Only one is really doing the heavy work.
Okay, fair enough. And what about selfies? For the front-facing camera, we're looking at a 5MP single lens.
Right, but what's truly fascinating here is the video capability listed for that 5MP selfie camera. It's specified as capable of 4K at 30 frames per second, as well as 1080p at 30 frames per second. Now, this directly contrasts with the main camera's listed maximum of 1080p video recording. We just mentioned that. So this raises an important question. Could there be a strong focus on high-res video for vlogging or video calls from the front?
Seems unlikely but possible. Or is this another instance of conflicting or perhaps even placeholder information in the pre-release data that, users should definitely note? It certainly makes you wonder about the intended use cases or just the consistency of the provided specifications. It's a detail that would certainly need confirming at launch.
Wait, hang on. So the selfie camera can do 4K, but the main 108 MP camera is capped at 1080p. That just sounds, well, completely counterintuitive, especially for a phone with a flagship-level chipset. Is this like a common pattern with early leaks, or is there some logical reasons for such a weird design choice? You're absolutely right to be scratching your head there. It's definitely not common, particularly for a device aiming for that kind of flagship performance. It could be an error in the early information. That's probably the most likely explanation. Or, less likely, maybe a very niche design choice, prioritizing front-facing video capabilities for a specific, say, content creator market. But yeah, more often than not, when you see such a stark contrast in expected performance versus reported specs, it flags a potential data entry error or maybe information from a really early unoptimized prototype. It's exactly why these early deep dives are so crucial. They highlight where to ask the next questions.
That's a perfect example of why we're doing this deep dive, to spot those kinds of quirks. Okay, moving on to connectivity and battery life. The Vivo Y88 is equipped with modern standards like Wi-Fi 6, that's 802.11 AVNAC6, Bluetooth 5.2, and comprehensive GTIN support, including AGPS, GLONASS, Galileo, and BDS. It also features NFC and a USB Type-C 3.0 port. Interestingly, it notably lacks an FM radio and an infrared port. Some people might miss those.
Yeah, maybe. But these connectivity standards offer significant user benefits, right? Wi-Fi 6 means faster, more efficient wireless internet, especially in crowded networks, great for streaming or gaming. Bluetooth 5.2 enhances stability and range for accessories like earbuds or smartwatches. And the comprehensive GPS support means more accurate, more reliable navigation. You'll appreciate that. The USB Type-C 3.0 ensures faster data transfer and charging speeds, too. While some might miss FM radio, particularly in certain markets, its absence here kind of signals a focus on modern streaming and smart home control, sort of gently pushing users towards newer tech adoption.
Makes sense. And powering all of this is a 4600 milliwatt LiPo battery. For those unfamiliar, LiPo, short for lithium polymer, is pretty much the standard for smartphone batteries now, known for being lightweight and energy dense.
A 4600 milliwatt battery is a respectable size, especially when paired with a power-efficient chipset like that Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 we discussed earlier. For typical usage, you can realistically expect solid all-day battery life. And for moderate users, it might even stretch into a second day, potentially. This capacity generally strikes a good balance between providing ample power and keeping the device's overall weight and thickness, in check.
Good to know. Okay, so to wrap up our dive into the specs, the source material also provided an R rating for the Vivo Y88. Across the board, for design, display, camera, features, connectivity, usability, performance, and battery, it received a consistent 9 out of 10. That's well, that's a remarkably high and uniform score, suggesting a very positive overall impression from the experts who rated it. Given the significant spec discrepancies we've uncovered, does such a uniform high score raise any eyebrows for you, or do you think this just refers to an ideal, perhaps unconfirmed premium variant?
Well, absolutely does raise eyebrows. A perfect 9 across the board. Especially when we're seeing such a divergence in core components like the chipset and RAM. It suggests either an incredibly optimistic projection, maybe an evaluation of the theoretical best version, or perhaps even just an aspiration for what the phone could be. It's a critical reminder that early ratings, much like early specs, come with a big grain of salt. They often depend on which specific configuration or even prototype they're based on. You need to remember that these ratings are often subjective and based on incomplete information, unlike a final review of a shipping product.
Right, good point.
So to summarize our in-depth exploration of the Vivo Y88, it's shaping up to be a potentially powerful upcoming device. Highlights are its top-tier Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset, a very high-resolution main camera despite that intriguing video quirk, and a substantial battery. We've also navigated some interesting and frankly quite common discrepancies in the early specification lists, which is just, well, part of the fast-paced world of tech leaks and pre-release information. This deep dive has hopefully helped you cut through some of that noise and provided a truly curated understanding of the Vivo Y88, preparing you with key insights even before its official launch.
So what does this all mean for you navigating the tech landscape? Considering the different specifications presented in our source material today, how do you typically evaluate the reliability of pre-release tech information? And what specific details do you look for to determine a phone's true potential amidst all the noise and the hype? A good challenge, to think critically about every spec you read. Because the early bird might get the worm, but the informed bird, well, the informed bird gets the right worm.